Hi, welcome back. Okay, so in today's video, I'm going to talk about two comic books that I read recently. Rat Queens Volume 4 and Ladycastle. So I picked up Ladycastle on a whim, just because it sounded interesting, and it's written by Delilah Dawson, and I really like her book series, The Wake of Vultures, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I'm a huge Captain Phasma fan, and she wrote the Captain Phasma book, which I actually thought was pretty good, considering they don't really talk about her in the movies, but her book version of it was pretty good. So I saw that she came out with a comic book, and I decided to read it. From what I can tell, and I try to look online, I think this is just like a self-contained thing. I don't think it's going to keep going. And, okay, so I have to say this, and I feel like this is going to be a little bit of an unpopular opinion, but it's my opinion, so I have to say it. So the premise of this book is that these ladies live in this place called Man Castle, and then all the men go away, and through a series of events they're not coming back, so then they have to do things on their own, which is a interesting and cool story idea. Here's the thing that I resent that I've seen happening lately, is where the idea of feminism, and I'm definitely a feminist, but where the idea of feminism is kind of taken and used as a marketing device, if that makes any sense. Like where it's like, oh, this is a feminist story and you have to like it, or you're not a feminist, or like they just try and put a feminist cast on anything to make people like it, or to sell it, or to try to get you to buy it, or to watch it. And for me, it's like, just tell a good story about women, let women write stories, and do all that, and sort of the idea behind it of like, oh, look at this stuff that women can do. Like, yeah, women have been doing stuff since the beginning of time, people just don't notice, but you're using that trying to get me to go watch a movie is not going to work. Just write good movies, write good stuff, don't use it as a marketing ploy. But anyway, I still picked it up and I still read it, and I'm glad I did, because despite my gripe about that kind of being, that marketing campaign being forced down my throat all the time, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really well written, and it was interesting. The art was really cool, and the story behind it was really cool. Once they got past the whole, like, all the dudes are dead, and now we have to do it for ourselves type thing, it was actually really funny and witty and good. It was a good thing. I'm kind of sad if they don't make more of it, because I would totally read more of it. There was lots of funny parts, and the princess, the main princess in the story, she gets kind of locked away in a castle, and there's a lot of like magic and curses and stuff, and she's supposed to be cursed, and she doesn't really believe it's a curse, and that curse actually ended up being kind of a good twist in my opinion. If you read it, definitely let me know what you think about the curse, because I liked it. So speaking of adventures about ladies and magic and stuff, I finally read Rat Queens Volume 4. Here's a problem I have. I don't know if anyone else has this problem too. I don't read things in single issues. I just never have. I just don't have the space for that. I was just too lazy. And if I buy it, like I do with a lot of them, I don't really want to buy single issues. I'd rather just have the volume instead of like 6 single issues. I don't have the space for that. My husband's already sick of all the graphic novels that are in my house and all the books. So if I start buying single issues of stuff, I might be single. So, but the problem with that is that, like, by the time I get around to reading the collected volumes, sometimes I don't really remember what happened before, and that sort of happened with this. I don't necessarily really remember all that well what happened in Volume 3, but it really didn't matter, because you know who the characters are, or I do, and it was still interesting and really good. And I love, one thing I really love about this series is the dynamics between all the characters and their relationships. I think that's really well done in this series. Like, you can tell they have affection for each other, but they're all kind of their own unique, separate identities, which is actually pretty impressive, especially for a comic book. And then the action's really good, and it's really funny. Like, a lot of comic books, especially like superhero comic books, in my opinion, like, they try to be funny, and they're like, oh, look at this, look at these jokes, but they're maybe not actually funny if you're like an adult. But this stuff is funny, especially if you're an adult. This is definitely not for children. But, yeah, so funny and awesome. The art is amazing. I think they've gone through a couple different artists, but I like the current, what's going on currently. It's my jam. It's my jelly and my jam. So those are the two things that I've been reading this week. I have a bunch of graphic novels I actually got from work. At my job, I work at a library. We have a really good graphic novel department. I got a bunch of them, and I'm just being lazy about reading them. That is one of my New Year's resolutions, is to read more comic books, which is probably going to be the only resolution I actually stick to, hopefully. Alright, so that's what I'm reading this Wednesday, so let me know what you're reading or if you have any thoughts on what I said, and I will see you next Wednesday.